The next morning, after a hurried breakfast, Jeremy and Arthur left Lake Estrella. Then a few minutes before noon, they pulled each of their cars into the cobblestone driveway of Jeremy's rundown chateau. Arthur opened the back of his Jeep to grab his overnight bag, and Bingham jumped down. "That doesn't look so bad. When was this place built?" 1920-something. Jeremy opened the door of his Jaguar to let out Skipper. "You know the huge fire that destroyed the north end of Ballena Beach around the turn of the century? This place was built on the site of some big old Victorian mansion that burned down." "I remember seeing the pictures taken after that fire. So sad." Arthur stood back to admire the architecture of Jeremy's mansion, his head tilted back. "Is that a real slate roof? It's gorgeous." "Is that something special?" "Slate roofs, they're actually built from hand-chiseled slate rock, are fireproof and waterproof and usually last hundreds of years. So whoever designed this place held true to the Norman style. The steep mansard roof, the fieldstone exterior, and the limestone door and window surrounds are very exacting." Arthur looked over at the east side of the house. "And it's even got a turret and a garret and double-stacked chimneys. So, tell me again what it is that your aunt didn't like about this place?" "I paid twice as much for it than it's worth. In fact, I'm so upside down on the mortgage now that the slate roof you like so much might as well be covering the basement." He punched him on the shoulder. "Let's get settled." Jeremy fitted his key into the castle-worthy door and shouldered it open. Skipper trotted inside, but Bingham stopped at the door, a growl rumbling in his throat. Arthur scratched his head. "Bingham, what's going on?" Bingham's hackles bristled as if staring down a wolf. "What's wrong with them?" Jeremy asked. Arthur, now on one knee, curled an arm around his body. "I've never seen him like this." Bingham growled and curled his lip. Jeremy backed into the entry. "Why don't you see if he'll follow you in?" Arthur entered the house, and Bingham crept alongside him, skulking low and pressed against Arthur's leg. Jeremy kept the door open until Bingham's posture began to relax. Then, after the dog began his usual behavior of sniffing floor moldings and trotting after Skipper, Jeremy closed them all inside. Arthur stopped to scan the interior. Whoa! Beyond the formal marble-floored foyer on the right, a flying staircase swept up counterclockwise to the second story, and to the left a magnificently scaled great room with high, narrow windows reaching almost to the beamed ceiling, flanked an immense carved marble fireplace mantel befitting a Florentine villa. Straight ahead stood a long bank of French doors overlooking the shimmering Pacific, and to the right a long formal dining room adjoined an outdated railcar kitchen. Clearly the scale, architectural integrity, and genteel style of the home bespoke a once gracious and glamorous lifestyle. But now the structure was clearly in disrepair. The ceilings and walls were absent the chandeliers and wall sconces that had glittered so long ago. There were crooked, dirty cracks spiderwebbed along the dingy marble floors. More than a few of the doors suffered broken moldings, patches of wall plaster were missing, and even some of the window panes had been patched with rectangles of plywood and even cardboard. But worst of all, the wall color, greenish-brown. "It's almost grand enough to be a chateau in the Loire Valley," Arthur remarked. "Too bad no one cared enough or had enough money to fix the place up." "And so the tradition continues." Jeremy dropped his bags onto the floor. "Apparently, Lazzaro bought some new lighting and furniture and art for the place, but that all got repossessed after I moved in. That's where all the holes in the walls came from." He laughed. "I like to think of my little palace here as architectural digested." Arthur put an arm around Jeremy's shoulders. "I think it's magical." "You do?" "Of course. The possibilities are amazing." "Like what?" "Well..." Arthur began pacing, pointing here and there. "For one thing, this turtle-shell green on the walls needs to go. It would suck the light from a nuclear blast, and you need lots of light coming in. And you could switch out half of those broken French doors with double-paned ones that aren't mullioned to open up the view."